Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be doing an album review. I'm going to be taking a look at this album by the Housemartins, London Nil Hull 4. So yes, I'll just be doing the usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, then showing you my vinyl copy of it here, and then looking at each of the album songs in detail. So yes, the Housemartins were initially formed in Hull in 1983 as a busking duo between Paul Heaton and Stan Cullimore. To find out more information about Heaton's early life, there was a fantastic documentary on Channel 4 a few weeks back called From Hull to Heaton Grad. Definitely I would recommend I would recommend watching that if you can guide just summarizes Heaton's early life, the build up to the Housemartins really well. So there's a demo tape recorded by Heaton and Cullimore which got the attention of a small independent label called Go Discs, and thusly they formed a band consisting of local drummer Hugh Whitaker and a bassist what Heaton knew from one of his previous teenage bands, a guy called Norman Cook, of course who would later go on to become the DJ Fatboy Slim. In 1985 they got their first exposure through a couple of John Peel radio sessions. They broke through commercially though the following year with the lead single from this album, Happy Hour, what reached number 3 on the UK charts in June of 1986. That was followed by the album in July, which also reached the number 3 spot. So it was an incredibly fast journey to stardom for the Housemartins. Within a year going from a small indie John Peel band to basically number 1 at Christmas with their song Caravan of Love. This album though was promoted by a half-hour TV special which is on YouTube, which I would definitely recommend watching. There's lots interviews with the band in it, again a lot of funny clips. They just really show their personality really well. I think it is just called London Nil Hull 4. But yes, I will try to show you my vinyl copy of it. This is a original pressing on Go Discs. So there's the cover with Paul Heaton on it there, and the back with every member of them just says who they are. Yeah, just nice design to it. Chat listing is just there as well. This copy comes with the originally printed inner sleeve, so you get all of the lyrics on that side and then a wee message from the Housemartins there as well. And the record, as I said, is just on Go Discs here. So that is what the, if I can get the right way up, that's what the record label looks like. So and I go over each of the album songs in detail. There's 12 tracks in total, so I will score each track out of 10, and then those scores will be used to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. So the album kicks off with the song Happy Hour. For this I have got the 12-inch single to show for this one here. So yeah, absolutely fantastic song. Yeah, just a great way to kick off their debut album. Lyrically, it's about the jobs that Heaton worked in before joining the Housemartins. Basically when all the guys in the office would go out for a pub lunch and try and chat up the female barmaid, with Heaton very much disapproving of this sort of sexist and corporate culture. It's got a brilliant music video to this, a part plasticine animated as well. Was a big UK hit for them, reached number 3 on the national charts. So yeah, this is the 12-inch to it there, just nice picture of them on the back. And with this you get a couple of unique B-sides, and probably most notably a cover of the Holly song He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. So yeah, that's the 12-inch there, and definitely one of the best opening tracks on a debut album for me, right up there with the Beatles' I Saw Her Standing There. Okay, now the next one on the album is a song called Get Up Off Our Knees, which is a more sort of piano-based track. This one, it keeps up the fast-paced nature of the album, and also Heaton's very sharp lyrics. This one about religion and how it can't sort of solve the world's problems. Some fantastic lines in it, the opening line: famines will be famines, banquets will be banquets, some spend winter in a palace, some spend it in blankets. Just really lets us know what the song is about within the first few lines. I love the middle section as well, where it goes all quiet, just really sort of tense, and then Heaton's really sort of sharp and determined vocal on top of that. It just sounds incredible. So yeah, a really great second track there. Another 10 out of 10 for me. It's a waste of time if you know what they mean. Try to shake Then the next track up is Flag Day, which this is a re-recording of what was their debut single, which criminally failed to chart like upon release in 1985. Personally, I would say that I do prefer the single version like of the song. For me, it just sounds a lot more rawer. This version here is a little bit too gospel-y for me, a little bit too like over dramatic as well. It kind of like drags out towards the end, which for me somewhat like dilutes like the message like of the song. The song lyrically like is about charity, and like again it has some really effective lyrics in it, such as "It's a waste of time if you know what they mean. Try shaking a box in front of the Queen, cause our purse is full and bursting at the seams." So yeah, again, just he really a sharp like lyricist, and like this song a really great track. For me personally, I do, like as I said, rate the single version a little bit better. Like if that one like was the one which I used, probably would have been like another like at least like a 9 out of 10 for me. As it is though, this version, I can only really give it an 8. The next track up is called Anxious, which is another kind of fun track like on the surface, like, but again like it's a song about sort of like personal insecurities. The band do a really great job like on like backing vocal harmonies, like again that's something like what made like the Housemartins like quite unique. Like every member like of the band like could sing really well. Particularly great bass playing on this track like from Norman Cook, like who would like later like turn his back like on like the instrument like to go like into like more sort of like dance and like DJ music, despite him being a really fantastic bassist, definitely very much like integral like to like their sound. So yeah, Anxious, a really great song, and we'll give that one a 9 out of 10. And then we get for me a little blot on the album. It's a song called Reverend's Revenge, which yeah is for me a rather pointlessly short like instrumental track. Really for me it's got the same kind of beat and like chord structure like to like Happy Hour, although on the song Heaton like does show off his chops like on like the harmonica. But for me this is definitely like a reason like why like some people say like the Housemartins like are kind of like a one-dimensional like sort of sound to them, because of songs like this, like where it is sort of like it's very similar like to like other songs like in like their discography. So definitely for me that does detract like from the album. So yeah, I can only give that one a 5 out of 10 unfortunately. And then closing off side 1, we get track Sitting on a Fence, which yet again starts off very similar to Reverend's Revenge and Happy Hour, but thankfully this one is fully developed lyrically. On this track, Heaton lambasts those who sit like on like the centre grounds. Like he sort of sings like sitting on a fence, a man who sees both sides of both sides. So again, like this was like the 80s, like when sort of like politics was very sort of like polarised. I really like the sort of stomping chorus like of the song, and like the catchiness, like while also delivering like a sort of like a political message like as well. Like that's like another one like off like the great qualities like of the Housemartins. So yeah, that one would get a 9 out of 10 from me. Then opening up side 2, we get another favourite track of mine on the album called Sheep, which is another breezy and light song like on like the surface, like, but like again lyrically it's about how people like should sort of stand up like for themselves and like not be fooled like by leaders. Again, it's a really strong, solid performance like by all concerned, especially like with like Norman Cook's very melodic bass lines like throughout the song, as well as a really great effective but simple like guitar break like from Stan Cullimore. Now this was the Housemartins' second single, and unfortunately it only reached number 56 like on like the national charts. Like definitely was like a like improvement like from like Flag Day though, but certainly shows like they were definitely like sort of slowly gaining like momentum like as like the year went on. Next number up is called Over There, which for me is one of the more forgettable ones on the album. It is a song which is very easy like to overlook. Again, it sort of begins sort of very similar like to like a lot like off like the ones like on the album that's Sitting on a Fence, Happy Hour, but I really like the sort of like the pre-chorus bit. Like I think there's a bit like cowbell like going on like in it as well, and like once again the harmony vocals are just infectious. So yeah, another really good, really pleasant song. We'll give that one like an 8 out of 10. And then following that, we get another highlight on the record for me, which is Think for a Minute, which is another absolutely wonderful song. Lyrically, it's just about like offering like a helping hand to someone like in like a time of need. This was the third single issued from the album, and it reached number 18 like on the UK singles charts, which is quite a good placement for it. But I would say, for me, the single version of this is vastly like inferior, because this is like a much like fuller band version, like with like these chiming Rickenbackers and like Heaton's really sort of like angelic vocal. Definitely for me, like this album version, like it sounds like it has a lot more commercial potential, like as like a single, and like definitely like could have gone like top 10. So yeah, like I'm very glad that like this is the version like which they put on the album. So yeah, Think for a Minute, for me, a really great song, a 10 out of 10. Following that, we get another absolute cracker called We're Not Deep, which I would also give a 10 out of 10 to. I just really can't think of anything wrong with this song. Lyrically, it's just so down to earth. It's about like unemployment, like with lines such as like, I open my curtains at 7 a.m. just so you think I'm up with the rest of the men, like sort of like about like sort of like the stigma like of being like unemployed and that. Again, it's just relatable, like down to earth lyrics like in like the 80s, like when so much like of like sort of like 80s culture like was all about glamour and like fakery. The Housemartins like really just sort of like went against that and just sort of sang about real like ordinary people's lives. So yeah, like this is a really fantastic song. We'll give it another 10 out of 10, like as I said. And then following that, we get, for me, maybe my least favourite on the album. It's certainly the most different sounding song like on the record. It's a song called Lean on Me, which is definitely a more sort of soul and gospel like influenced song. It's definitely a signpost like of like where Heaton like was going to go, like kind of like on like the next Housemartins album, but probably more so like with like the Beautiful South. Except for me, like on this song, like he was still trying to find like his like sort of like deep like soulful voice, like which like he would like late again like as like the years went on. Like this song here, like it certainly like is marred like by like his like slight so like I would say like maybe like immaturity like as like a vocalist, because he had like only kind of just started out like at this point. Personally for me, it really doesn't fit on the album, this song, and like it is a real drag like at this point like on the album. Like it's about 5 minutes long, and like yeah, like definitely like one of like the longer tracks like on the album. So yeah, it just doesn't do too much for me, this song, unfortunately.
So this is freedom.
But then thankfully we close with a more upbeat number, which is called Freedom, which again like is a track which is maybe like easy like to overlook like and like forget about, because kind of like probably like for me like this album like tends to like end like with like We're Not Deep. Like this is a song that which you always like tend to forget about, but it is a really good song. It's got a strong like single-on chorus like to it, like just effectively sort of like rounds off like the sort of like political messages like Heaton's like sort of like talked about like on like the album. Maybe for me, maybe a more sort of tougher and punky sounds that might have been like an interesting route like to like have gone down. Like certainly like the follow-up album, like The People Who Grin Themselves to Death, like has a more sort of like punchy kind of more like sort of like heavier guitars like on it. Certainly I think this song like would have worked like with like that production style, but like as it is, I think it is a really good effective closer to the album. So we'll give that one a 9 out of 10. So overall, I would score this album 86%. So yeah, a really tremendous album here. Like I'm a big fan like of how kind of like on the outside it seems very appealing and sort of like poppy, like kind of like anyone like of like any age that can like really like enjoy like the music like on here. However, like lyrically, like it's quite political, like it's quite serious like as well, like when listened to like and like analysed. Furthermore, I think that like they were all just absolutely like top like talented guys, like from Heaton's very angelic voice like to like the band's like harmony vocals, as well like as like the pleasant guitar and bass backings, like which sort of like contrast like Heaton's lyrics like about like class divides, religion, and like general like sort of like political anger. The only slight criticism I have with it is its lack of variation like in sound, but I do suppose that a debut record is all about establishing a band's sound and style, which is definitely done like on this album. Like this is kind of like the quintessential like sort of like Housemartins like sound. Like it's definitely like got like a characteristic sound to it. And although I personally don't always agree with Heaton's views and messages like expressed like in like the lyrics, I certainly can appreciate the craft like in like their writing and like delivery like on this album. So yeah, a really great record here by the Housemartins. We're definitely recommending everyone to check it out, like if like you haven't done so already. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this review, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.